The presenting sponsor for OnEducation is Schoology. Every day, millions of students, parents, faculty, and administrators from more than 1,600 school districts leverage Schoology to advance what is possible in education. The team at Schoology is passionate about making its users successful, and they know sometimes you might need a little help to achieve your desired outcomes. To help districts find their way to success, Schoology has created Schoology Compass, a set of self-service resources and tools to support school and district leaders in their journey to success. Compass is made up of 5 district success routes. Each one is designed to advance what is possible at your district. To learn more about Schoology Compass, simply visit Schoology.com.
Smart people talking about smart things. Welcome to On Education. I'm Mike Washburn.
And I'm Glen Irvin. Friends, we have an awesome pod for you today. We're going to discuss Quizlet entering the digital content space, Computer Science Education Week, and whether we should be concerned about the amount of screen time our students are getting. Our amazing guest this week is Lori Jackson, co-founder of the Connections model.
You're at TIES.
I am. I'm at the TIES conference. I just got here yesterday morning, really early morning. And then, like I was just describing to you, I'm actually inside of one of the presenting rooms because I was trying to find a quiet space to be able to record. And I actually am underneath a table, the presenting table, trying to muffle out as much noise as possible,
You sound amazing.
You keep telling me. I'm on
table.
Exactly. I need this table, including
You're going to bring the table and the tablecloth home with you.
Yeah, it's actually a really cool idea.
Great.
The only problem is that, like I just told you, we just had an incident here. The tech people that manage the hotel rooms here for the conference, one of them came into the room and didn't know I was underneath the table. And then I pop out from underneath the table and just scared her to death. She was like,
"Who is this crazy guy just sleeping under the tables?"
And then my response was epic because you're listening to it because the microphone's on. And I'm like, I'm just recording a podcast. Totally makes sense. I'm underneath the table.
Sure, you're recording a podcast.
They're like, that's strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that was a good one.
Oh, man. So we're doing 2 or 3? How many episodes are we going to do related to TIES? 3?
I was thinking 3 episodes. We're going to, one's going to come out today, which today is Sunday. Or at least it'll be put together. We'll push it out as soon as we can. And then a couple of other ones I'm pretty sure we're going to have, making probably within 20 to 30 minutes ones, So there'll be shorter ones with 5 to 10 minute interviews of various different people.
Easy listening, folks.
Yeah.
Easy listening.
Really good, just amazing people here. And what they pack into a little 5-minute interview is really interesting and then compelling. They give the information to kind of follow up if you're interested in learning more.
Right. Smart people talking about smart things.
Yes.
Here on Education. Sounds like a advertisement.
That does sound like our ad. Yeah.
So, are you? How much Christmas shopping have you done?
We've done our kids. Will
you go Christmas shopping in Minneapolis while you're there?
No, probably not.
No.
I'll just. That's a good idea, though.
It is.
Yes, it's a really good idea. But no, I have some ideas of what we're going to purchase for our kids, and something I have in mind for my wife. And then usually for the family, we buy like calendars that have our kids and people's birthdays on them. Kind of those calendars.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So then we give them out, and they have pictures of each month is a different picture of our kids and our family, and then kind of pictures with them and our kids.
Nice.
So that's a good. I think that's a great gift, and
my wife already has her Christmas present.
Does she? Wow.
Yeah.
What was it?
She got tickets to. We're going to the Mumford and Sons concert.
Oh, that's awesome. When is that coming?
Next weekend. Not next weekend. The next weekend. Next Monday. Two Mondays from now. So very exciting.
Yes.
Very expensive tickets.
Ooh.
So I don't think we got like backstage passes, but we got like special area passes and all this other nonsense. They were not cheap.
Hey,
but very exciting.
Their experiences.
We're Mumford we've seen Mumford and Sons once before.
Yeah.
So we're
Big
excited
fans?
to go again. I think I'm getting an Apple Watch for Christmas.
Oh, hey.
Which is
you love
also
those
exciting.
things. Remember you called them, what did you say? I think on the previous episode you called the Apple Watch sexy as hell.
Sexy as hell. And now my wrist will be sexy as hell.
Now you're going to be like, oh.
So I've been watching a lot of Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
Last night I watched a play that was on TV it was like a remixed Christmas Carol where the ghost was a guy named Marley and he had a Jamaican accent.
Oh, no way.
It was really weird.
That sounds horrible.
Well, it was okay. Cheryl liked it.
Oh, okay.
That's all that matters. Happy wife, happy life, buddy.
Absolutely.
But it got us thinking. We were talking about our favorite Christmas movies.
Yes.
What's your favorite Christmas movie, Glenn? I'm genuinely curious.
Okay. I don't like a lot of Christmas movies.
Me neither.
But maybe I'm a Grinch. But I don't even like the Grinch either, so I'm really Grinchy. I would say my favorite by far, and the one that we watch every single year, and our kids love it too, is Will Ferrell's Elf. It's just so funny and just hilarious, and it just never gets old either. I just watch it and I'm just cracking up. Just all the different lines that are included as part of the movie. Classic.
That's a good movie.
Yes.
Isn't that the one where he eats spaghetti with maple syrup?
Maple syrup and candy in it. And oh my God, that guy is, what an actor. Just so hilarious.
Am I allowed to say Die Hard?
Yeah. It's during the Christmas season. That's your favorite holiday movie? That's awesome.
It's on every year at Christmas time. Totally.
Well, it takes place during Christmas, so then it's a Christmas movie. Die Hard.
Die Hard, I can't say Die Hard's my favorite Christmas movie. I don't even know if I really have a favorite Christmas movie, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I like watching Die Hard. I'll watch Die Hard anytime.
Sure.
And the one that you just said, what was it, Elf or whatever it's called?
Yes.
That movie's pretty funny. I don't mind that. But the new Grinches are pretty good. Like the one with, what was the one, Jim Carrey?
Yes.
From about 15 years ago?
Yeah.
That one's not too bad. It's tolerable.
Didn't a new one just come out too? That I thought received horrible ratings.
Literally,
right?
like just came out.
Yeah.
And then I guess what's the movie? Is it It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes, the old
That's
classic.
the one with the bank, right?
Yes.
That's the one where the guy is the banker, the businessman, George Bailey. Yeah. Yes. I like that movie. Okay. That movie makes me happy.
That's a classic movie. Yes.
So there's a classic Christmas movie. It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
I've enjoyed that the few times I've watched it. It is indeed a wonderful life. My life is pretty darn good.
Hey, me too.
Hey, so this is the end of Computer Science Education Week.
Yes.
And I tell you, this is like our Twitter feeds in particular. I don't know about yours, but mine was just bonkers this week. With like just people sharing like crazy. I mean, we live in this world, right?
Yes.
So there's lots going on all over the world, schools and people doing things for the first time. I mean, I work for an educational technology company now, so we're getting tagged in like classroom Twitter feeds where people are using Dash and Dots and MBots, and I had a couple people using the drone, the Make Block drone.
Very cool.
So like lots of cool. It was weird not being a teacher for the first time in a long time during computers, because I've always done like an hour of code. I've always showed the movies, showed the cool videos they make with, Chris Bosh and all those other videos that they've done with Obama and Obama. Anyways, showed all those. Donald Trump didn't do anything for Computer Science Education Week. I can tell you that.
Of course not. Yes. Except go on Twitter and say ridiculous things. Exactly.
So it was weird. What do you guys do stuff at the high school?
Yes. It's pretty big too. I mean, as far as hour of code and really trying to push that so that it goes beyond this week. And that's what I think people do a really good job promoting, is saying, hey, we need to push this beyond just this 1 week. It's something that kids need to be exposed to, and not even just the coding itself, but all of computer science type of skills, like the stuff that you were teaching in your class, design and iteration and all those kinds of things, which are fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, I've always enjoyed the hour of code. So it was really great to see all the stuff going on and people sharing what they were doing, and some teachers who were doing things for the first time. So lots and lots going on. Speaking of lots going on, this is a really interesting move. I mean, we talk a lot about ed tech companies and businesses and like all of these folks trying to figure out ways to make money, because it's hard to make money at almost anything.
Yes.
But Quizlet is a pretty big name.
Big time name.
Like,
yes.
In the formative assessment kind of space and
games, digital games kind of things. Yeah, vocab, flashcard kind of space,
So they are opening up a marketplace for, I guess, textbook publishers.
Yes.
Mainly, and I guess other education publishers. It's not just the big ones, even though the big ones looks like are involved in this.
Yes.
Like Penguin, Random House, Oxford University Press, Pearson.
Yep.
Right. So the big ones are in there, but you got these other folks that do, second language learning, Bablet, whatever Bablet is.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is a big deal, I guess, right?
Yeah. So what they've done is basically, if you're familiar with Quizlet, you understand that you as a teacher and your students, basically anybody, can create these things called sets. They're Quizlet sets, and they basically are a set of vocab, and it can be even include images on them and be as detailed or as not detailed as you want it to be. And basically, you can use the Quizlet app to be able to review vocab in a variety of ways. Some of them have some kind of gamification elements in it, so like review games kind of things. You can even do class games, which are Quizlet Live, is a fantastic resource there too. But what they've done, this is the part that's the interesting part, is they've opened up a new marketplace for these specific big vendors, people that distribute usually textbook type materials. And those companies are creating Quizlet sets that you can then purchase. So that's the part that I was
tied
like,
to the content in the textbook.
Exactly. So, for example, if you were studying, I saw some examples of some like super detailed medical books. Kind of you were taking a very intricate class for pre-med, and you were studying the parts of, I think it was like the inner ear or something like that, and it had just all of these components and all of this things that you just have to memorize as medical students. They created those sets and then they sell them. For example, I think this one of them that I saw was like $10, and another different one was like $15. And if you want the whole textbook full of units or whatever it might be, and maybe it would be like $50 or $60, but much more money. Right. So then immediately I thought, what's stopping someone from just not making these? Because that's what we do right now. Do you know what I mean? I have a Spanish book, right? If I was teaching Spanish, and I was like, okay, well, this is my thematic vocab that I'm going to use. So I'm going to create some lists inside of Quizlet, maybe even add some images, blah, 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 if I wanted to. And then I I share it with my students, but I never purchase anything. Do you understand what I mean, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, and there's a great quote in here from this guy, Adam Bello, who is one of the founders of Breakout EDU. And he said, collecting a lot of resources is easy. Collecting good resources is hard. Getting people to know that good resources exist and then pay for them is the hardest thing.
Yes.
And that's what we've been saying, right? Is that there's a difference between what, sharing things.
Yes.
And just giving them to people. But these are businesses, and businesses need to pay employees so that employees can feed their families. And, that costs money. And so if you're expecting awesome resources that are professionally designed by professionals, the professionals need to get paid to design them.
Yeah.
And that means you have to charge teachers to use them. And when teachers don't have money or a budget and have to pay out of pocket, it makes it really difficult.
Big time.
This is like, that was literally like monetization of education in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Right?
No, exactly. So I was thinking too, Mike, I mean, as far as there was a response from, I believe, the person from Babbel, and she just was interested in what our take was going to be. But I think the target is actually the students. Didn't it seem like that to you? Like, it's not really meant for a teacher to do that and then distribute it to their students. It's more like you as a college student, for example, you would go in there, you're like, okay, this is associated with my book. It's kind of like purchasing a textbook, and that kind of a thing.
Which, I mean, might be possible, right? But
yeah,
do we really think that kids are going to take the initiative to go seeking out this kind of resource? That would be interesting.
And pay $60 for a study set, a study guide. I'm like,
sure. I mean, there will be kids that do that. It's about quantity that we're talking about. I mean,
yeah.
Enough of them do that. I mean, I don't see that happening at all. I definitely see teachers. I mean, like it or not, textbooks are everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so, Pearson has a vested interest in producing a brand new textbook that has, hey, we have really cool assessment and games-based learning content in Quizlet that we've made for you that is the same quality and love from your Pearson textbook. And now when you buy your Pearson textbook, you can get a whatever price for this additional set of resources that your kids will love. I mean, that's the pitch.
Yes.
That
was a good pitch, by the way. You did a good job selling it. Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so that's the way you do it, for sure. You say, we're making this content. It's not made by teachers. It's not of dubious quality, potentially. It's made by us. And if you like the textbook, you're going to love this stuff.
Yes.
Kind of thing. And so give us $60. You get all of this really cool assessment. And now we've given you even more things that you don't have to spend the time doing yourself.
Absolutely. So, you're right on point there.
I mean, as long as they have money. But you'll get more people with that pitch than trying to sell this directly to kids.
That's what I thought too.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, Quizlet's a big name, obviously.
Oh my God. They said they have 300 million active users. Wow. Jeez. That's ridiculous. I mean, they have customers,
Right. There's a reference in this article to your favorite online teacher marketplace.
Teachers pay teachers.
So that's fun. It's still paying for my World of Warcraft subscription. So
oh my goodness,
whatever. Oh man. So anyways, we're gonna link this article in the show notes. It's interesting. I'd love to know what people's take is on it. I worry when, money is tight.
Yes.
But I also get, their Quizlet has probably 100 or more people working for them. And these people have families and bills to pay. And so you gotta, Class Dojo and Edmodo and Quizlet and Classcraft and, you name it. These guys got to put food on the table. And you can't do that by giving stuff away for free, Glenn.
That's too bad.
You can't do that by giving stuff away for free. So, I wish them all the best. Listen, if you're going to be using textbooks still, at least this gives you, some better, more meaningful, engaging content than just the textbook. So if a textbook is all you got, at least maybe this will improve that delivery, that content a little bit more, right?
Yes.
There's a silver lining to this for the teachers that hate textbooks and everything about them.
Yes.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about screen time and whether our students are getting too much of it or not.
OnEducation is brought to you by Classcraft. Classcraft is an amazing teaching resource created by teachers. Classcraft is dedicated to making school relevant and engaging to all of our students. Classcraft is proud to announce their Questathon quests created with shared storylines and custom illustrations to bring any subject to life. Every time a teacher downloads one of the free quests, Classcraft will add $1 to the Teachers Are Professionals fund, which will be used to fund teacher requests to pledgesense.com. To learn more about Classcraft, simply go to classcraft.com.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Cool article. Well, maybe not a cool article. Anyways, article on EdSurge a couple days ago. How much screen time is too much for kids? Listen, I get this question all the time. You would have gotten it too.
Yes.
So, Glenn, Mr. Irvin, my child comes to your classroom. She plays Minecraft in your classroom.
Yes.
And then she goes home, Mr. Irvin, and all that she wants to do is play Minecraft. Now, not only that, Mr. Irvin, but she has to look on Google Classroom for all of her assignments. She has to read the PDF that Mr. Jones posted in his Google Classroom.
Yeah.
And then she has to do 5 minutes of keyboarding practice, Mr. Irvin. And then Mrs. Smith also posted a math review on her Google Classroom. My daughter spent hours in your classroom and other teachers' classrooms during the school day, Mr. Irvin, and then went home and spent more time on screens doing her homework. What are your thoughts on how much screen time my daughter is receiving, Mr. Irvin?
It's a really good question. Though I think the scare of it is directed at the wrong things. So if we're talking about that you are using a one-to-one device during the school day, which our students are, a lot of our students are, and they are obviously have a screen on that device, and it would be considered screen time, I guess, but it would be considered educational screen time versus recreational screen time. And so I would talk to them about that. I totally get what you're saying. And I guess the part that I would talk to them more about is that we need to try to make an effort to not invade home time as much. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really do agree with people that are saying, hey, our kids have a limited amount of time at home. Like, you know this, where we run all day, and then our kids, we might get home at 4:00 at the earliest at our house, all together. And you spend between 4 and 8 o'clock, and that's your family time. 8 o'clock, we start getting ready for bed and those kinds of things. But then between that 4 and 8 o'clock, you have to eat dinner, and you have to go to, like, take your kids to karate, or my kids to swimming practice, or whatever it might be. So even cut more of that time out, and then you really only have maybe an hour or two, of kind of or unstructured time. And then if you cut into that time with more, what I would consider to be what prototypically called homework, it's frustrating. as a parent and as an educator, saying, they already have been at school all of this time. Do they really need to do that? And then some kids don't have the opportunity to do any of that work anyway at home. And we know that. And it all depends upon totally of how, if your parents are even home. If you have to go to work as a kid, like I don't know if you did, but I had to go to work when I was, 15. I already started working after school every single day because you had to. It wasn't like so that I could buy my cell phone. Of course, they didn't exist then, but it was so that I could help pay bills and make sure that, whatever it might be that we needed as a family. And so you have to
I worked at Domino's and bought a Discman. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like you actually are doing that. And this time is not, obviously you're not going to be able to do those things at home anyway.
No.
So I think, I know I twisted the argument here, or the article, but it actually does describe in the article several of these experts, and I don't know they're experts, but they're just educational gurus, I would call them, do say that there's a big difference between recreational and educational screen time.
It matters what you're doing on the screen. 100%.
Big time.
Like if you're just like this article says, and I totally agree. If you're just using it, if your teacher is just giving you digital textbooks and worksheets to read, that's a crappy use of screen time, especially at home. But if you're using your screen time to engage, to problem solve, to do really interesting work like Minecraft in the classroom and stuff like that, that's a good use of screen time for sure. And it's all about balance. You covered it super well. It's about balance. It's about knowing when your kid specifically needs to shut it down, and when it's fine, and when to use it as a reward, maybe, or even, I guess, to take it away as a potential punishment of some sort.
Sure.
I mean, it's all about balance. And I mean, for us, for example, so when people ask, because I was the computer science teacher, I know I turned the tables and made you answer it as if you were getting the question, but basically that's the question. I got that question all the time, constantly, basically, because kids were coming to my class and the culture of the school was changing.
Yes.
Dramatically.
Big time.
Once I got there, we went from being a pen and textbook type school to a completely one-to-one school. That was what we did in the 6 years I was there. Every student from grade 1 to 3 has an iPad at our HMS, and every student from grade 4 to 8 has a laptop. And so they were getting screen time constantly. And all that I said when I got asked that question was I related it to me. I just told them what I do. Because I'm also not in the business of telling parents what to do with their kids.
Exactly. You can't control what's happening in other classrooms too. You're exactly right.
No. So I said, listen, let me tell you what I do. My son Isaac has a computer. It's in the kitchen. So I can see what he's doing on it anytime I want to. It's right there. He can't use it, at late at night, because I would hear him going downstairs if he was trying to sneak it. And that's where it is. It's a desktop. My son has an iPod. He uses it, chilling on the couch, sometimes when we're on long car drives. And we go to bed at he has to shut down all of his electronics at 8:00 every night. 8:00 every night, everything is done. He goes to bed at 8:30. He has a half an hour where he reads.
Yeah.
Or reads with his mom, which has been happening a lot lately. But for half an hour before bed, no electronics, no screen time at all.
That's great. Yes.
And we've been doing that for years. And so I just explain what I do. And I say, listen, I'm not telling you how to run your house. I'm saying that we've found a good balance for us. And you should think about what is a good balance for you.
Exactly.
And also looking for opportunities to take that screen time and make that meaningful. I let Isaac play a lot of video games. I think video games are valuable, newsflash. And so we let him, if he's going to use his screen time for anything, playing video games is, in my opinion, actually a good use of screen time. I'm not as much a fan of him sitting there and just gouging on YouTube for 3 hours. That's not as good a use for me of screen time as him actually playing a game. So, and we're getting into a rut a little bit with that. So I'm thinking about ways to get him off YouTube and try to get him playing a lot more.
Get him going, yeah.
What do you do at your house?
Well, I mean, it's very similar things that you're just talking about. But number one is we have decided as a family that there's only a specific time that they're going to be able to play, for example, their games or watch YouTube or whatever it might be. And it's usually it's on the weekends, and it's for a specific set time. And like I've talked about before on a podcast, they usually play with my father-in-law. So on the Xbox, we connect with them. And then my younger guy, Lynx, plays like Roblox, and they do these little running courses and whatever it might be. It's funny that they get entertained with, you know what I'm talking about? And then my older son, they play Fortnite, him and my father-in-law, and they play that. And it's only on the weekends. It's only for a specific amount of time. Mm-hmm. And then so, yeah, you're right. You need to limit the amount of things that you want to go ahead and say, hey, we're all going to move away from our screens and, not be obsessed with them. And that goes for us too. I think, me and you and I talk to my wife about this all the time is, we need to set our stuff down and then kind of move away from it too, so that we show them, we actually are walking the walk too.
I want to play more board games.
Yeah. Board games,
I really
card
do.
Games.
Like, I'm really interested in it. I think Isaac's getting old enough that he might be able to follow along with some of these more complex board games. Like, I don't want to play kids Monopoly with my kids.
No.
I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but it just...
I think it does. No, I'm just... No, I know what you mean. You want to play like, what's that game, Carcassonne, that you were talking about before?
Anything.
Yes.
Catan.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
Monopoly, whatever. My Cheryl doesn't like Monopoly, but we all love Catan.
Yes.
And I'm wanting to really badly build up a bit of a collection of really cool board games. I want to play board games with my family. I really do. So I'm thinking about in 2019 how I'm gonna carve out time to do that.
Very cool.
Instead of us all being on our things, our devices, whatever. I mean, I got an iPad. I'm gonna, by next week I'll have 2 laptops. I'll have a desktop. I have a brand new iPhone.
Yes.
What? So yes. I got that iPhone.
What
is it? XS Max.
Yeah. Is that a monstrosity?
Huge. It's big. It's heavy. That's what it is. I find it really heavy. That's what I've noticed. Anyways, back on topic.
Cool.
Yeah.
No.
Everyone's different. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Glen's not going to tell you what to do. We do things a little bit differently. But everyone's different, and you got to find what's best for your family. But use those screen times to be productive in some way. We all agree, generally speaking, learning is everywhere. There's lots of opportunities to learn. Video games are a great place to learn a lot of things. I personally believe that video games are a productive use of screen time. So, we're going to link this article. And we're not answering any questions. This isn't the answer session that maybe you were looking for, but certainly, and it leads to more questions and answers in a lot of cases.
Big time.
But hopefully you'll start to think about how screens are used in your classroom and how screens are used at your home with your kids, and find that space that's right for you. Does that seem to make sense, Glenn?
That was a perfect ending to the segment. I loved it.
Should have ended it 10 seconds ago. When we come back, we'll talk to Lori Jackson. Stay tuned.
OnEducation is brought to you by Audible.
So I got to tell you about this book. So I'm reading a book called "You Can't Spell America Without Me." It's written by Alec Baldwin, and it's in Trump's vernacular, like it's in his voice. Like it's written. It's like as if it was written by Donald Trump.
Okay.
And so I'm reading it, and I'm thinking every time I'm reading it, I'm hearing Donald Trump's voice reading it to me. So I looked up on Audible.
Okay.
If it was there, and I'm telling you it's there.
Oh,
so
my
this
goodness.
is Alec Baldwin in the voice of Donald Trump reading the book "You Can't Spell America Without Me." You've gotta listen to this. It is an absolute nightmare of a book. It's hysterical. So all that you guys have to do to listen to "You Can't Spell America Without Me" is go to audibletrial.com/oneducation. That's audibletrial.com/oneducation, and you will get a free audiobook download, which you should totally use for "You Can't Spell America Without Me" by Alec Baldwin, read to you by Alec Baldwin in the voice of Donald Trump. There's nothing better. So go do that, like, right now. All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We're thrilled to be joined today by Lori Jackson. Lori is an educational psychologist and the founder of the Connections Model, which is an SEL and education technology company whose Kid Connect app helps students develop emotional regulation. Lori's going to be part of a panel called Insights for Supporting SEL with EdTech at FETC. Welcome to the show, Lori.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So your work, Lori, focuses primarily on social and emotional learning and self-regulation. And I actually think that a lot of people, including a lot of educators, don't really even know what we're talking about when we talk about this stuff. So could you give us a bit of the Coles notes, the 101 on SEL and what self-regulation actually means?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. It's a great question. So the way we look at SEL is we look at it as the big process, right? Where people learn the skills that make them successful people. Mm-hmm. So like positive relationships, good decision-making. And these are really complex processes, right? Like it's a big area. And so then when we look at sort of the significance, the importance of these skills, we've looked at, schools are really trying to figure out how to teach these skills. And that sort of leads us into the way we look at sort of self-regulation, but we really look at it more in terms of emotional regulation.
Right.
And we say that because emotional regulation, we look at it as like a two-way street. So it's the ability to manage your emotional state, mm-hmm. but you have to do it in sort of an interactive way. And so it's monitoring, evaluating, and modifying your reactions to situation, people in ways that are constructive and adaptive. And so maybe that was a complicated way, but we really look at the significance of not just monitoring yourself, but also monitoring yourself in context. And for schools, that's really important because you don't want to just have kids who can label their emotions, but they really need to understand how those emotions play into their day because ultimately that's their behavior, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that actually leads kind of well into this next question. So as a teacher, so I just left the classroom after about 6 years of teaching computer science.
Okay.
And as a teacher, it's pretty easy to write off poor behavior sometimes as, that's just boys being boys. And I used to say that to parents all the time. I have a 10-year-old myself. I know what that's like. It's okay. I can handle it. Yep. And since we tend to deal with so much going on in the classroom, classrooms are crazy. They're frenetic. They're like lots of activity, lots of noise, lots of action. Bad behavior sometimes is just, it's just dealt with and moved on. We have strategies. We deal with them, for just getting them to stop doing whatever they're doing in the moment. Yep. And we move on. Yet in a lot of cases, we're learning that sometimes this behavior is a sign that what are some ways teachers can identify the difference between the normal 10-year-old who's just goofing off and a 10-year-old with real social and emotional issues who's using bad behavior as, a way to, over here, I actually need help.
Exactly. So here's how we frame everything. We talk about emotions driving our behavior. And we also look at this whole concept in the same way as, so you were a computer science teacher, is the same way as we want educators to look at it as they look at their skill areas. So we look at behavior on a continuum, and obviously it's always telling us something. But as educators, we have to look at behavior and say, okay, what skills are these kids showing us that they don't have? And so if we look at teaching behavior or teaching the emotional regulation pieces, we look at it as kids who are having really significant behavioral issues are telling us that they are lacking the skills to identify, understand, and manage their emotions. And so on the same way, the kids who are just a little itchy, everybody has that, are kids who are, doing okay, but obviously could also use a tune-up. So it's a continuum, but it's the same process, right? It's teaching kids what's behind the behavior. So as educators, we need to take a step back and look at what's driving the behavior, because it's just a symptom, as you say, of something that is more significant. But the way we look at it is that, the kids who are having the most issues are the ones who are having the hardest time identifying and really managing their emotions and like the true skills of emotional regulation. And we've had a ton of those kids sort of come through our ranks since we've been working on this in the past 10 years. And the ones with the most extreme behaviors are the ones who have absolutely no ability, whether they have a disability or not, to really get in touch in every sense with their emotions.
Wow. Yeah. This is super interesting stuff. It really reframes, the way you think about your kids and how they're acting on like a micro level.
Yep.
Because almost every action can be spoken to in this way, this SEL lens, I guess.
Well, exactly. And I think it's a way to look at kids, because one of the things that we have experienced so much with parents and teachers and the kids themselves is that kids who have behavior issues, there's a lot of shame behind it. There's shame from the families. There's this real negative whole frame around them. And our experience is that when you change that, when you shift that from these aren't bad kids, these are kids who just need more support, identifying and managing and understanding their emotions, it changes the whole way schools and parents and kids look at themselves. And it's so critical. So that's another reason really for reframing this stuff.
Sure. So speaking of reframing, I guess, I spent a lot of time preparing to speak with you by talking to my wife. She spent a lot of time this summer reading the work of a fellow up here in particular named Stuart Shanker, who's written quite a few books on self-regulation and emotional intelligence.
Yep.
And she's really spending this year focused on developing her teaching skills with student self-regulation in mind, with teaching them and helping them identify how they're feeling about what they're doing and their actions. Exactly, more or less what we're talking about. What type of advice would you give to a teacher who is trying to be in tune with their students and their emotional and social health?
So it's great that your wife is making that a focus. I think it's awesome. And Stuart's work is great, really good stuff. I think the biggest thing is starting out by reframing the way you look at behavior, sort of like we were just talking about. So stepping back and saying, what drives this behavior? So our mantra, everybody in my house, everybody in my world talks about emotions driving behavior. And so that's really our first focus with teachers, is to say, let's take a step back and let's change the way we're looking at behavior. And so the other piece is really making emotions sort of more front and center and integrated within your classroom, within your day. So in some ways, that's modeling emotions for your students and helping them put those emotions into context. So an example of that is saying, everybody is hurried and frantic some mornings, but giving examples about why either you're frustrated or you're anxious or whatever, and then helping put that anxiety or that emotion into context by tying it to the event that maybe drove that emotion. And so that's one way. Another thing is just identifying emotions by name. So much of what we do is we make assumptions that kids know their emotions and can identify and differentiate, even the smaller ones. So a big piece is, that differentiation piece between, sad and anxious or sad and depressed. It seems small, but when you're learning how to manage those emotions, that's a big piece.
Totally. I hadn't actually thought about it as, some kids just don't even know the words to say, like in terms of how to frame it.
Exactly.
And I guess maybe this gets the segues in this interview are just amazing, Lori. You have an application. Your company, Connections Model, has an application called Kid Connect.
Yeah.
And I think this actually goes towards doing exactly what you're saying, helping kids put words to how they're feeling. Can you tell us a little bit about Kid Connect?
Yeah. So Kid Connect came about because we had kids, exactly as we're talking about, who couldn't identify their emotions, who were not spending time in the academic classroom because their behavior was so challenging. And we had other kids who just needed a little extra support. And we struggled as educators to find the tool that would really teach them without us having to sort of stop and spend a whole lot of time processing every single time there was an issue. So Kid Connect was born out of necessity for, our own students years and years ago. And so basically we developed an app that was framed around cognitive behavioral theory that basically ties event to emotion to behavior. And so the app is, for the student, is self-driven. So it's an easy sort of guided route that they're able to use within 3 or 4 minutes that helps them in the moment of an issue. So they don't have to leave the classroom. Once they're in a place where they can, manage, they work through the route, they identify the source or the event, like we talked about before, of the issue. They can connect it to their emotion, where we have characters that we had designed that help them identify the emotion, connect that to behavior, and then most importantly, pick a strategy for managing that emotion the next time they feel it. And over time, what happens is they learn the feeling of that emotion and they, in essence, reprogram the negative behavior with something more adaptive. So we're not saying to kids, you can't be angry, you can't be frustrated, you can't be anxious. We're just saying, let's find a more adaptive way of managing that emotion. And over time, we have seen some truly amazing results. Awesome. And teachers aren't then having to spend time sort of analyzing the kids' behavior because we're able to sort of do it in, one process.
Awesome. So we're going to put the Connections Model website in our show notes. So if you're looking for more information about Kid Connect, you can head there. So I guess this is our last question. And I think that following, I guess, my wife's lead, when she wanted to find out more and learn more about SEL, what she did was do a lot of reading. And I think this is one of those, there are lots of ways that you can obviously learn new things, but this is one of those things where I think reading from smart people writing about this stuff is a good place to learn more about it. So what books, maybe give us 1 or 2 or 3 books you'd recommend to a teacher who wants to learn more and understand more about SEL and self-regulation?
So I may not answer you the right way because I don't know that I'm going to identify a book. I think things are changing so fast in the world of SEL and even the world of emotional behavioral ideas. So I'm going to say that I would direct your readers I would send them to the Castle website, which has great information on just the whole concept of social emotional learning. And they're really comprehensive. I would recommend some Edutopia articles within the area. There's a great researcher named Mark Brackett, who's out of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. We love him because he says a whole lot of the same things that we say. And so he's written tons of articles on this area. And so because it's a fast sort of changing world, and books at this moment aren't integrating all of these pieces of, the brain research and SEL and all of those pieces. And so unfortunately you have to search for articles right now, which are, they're super helpful. So awesome. I'm gonna not give you a book title.
No, that's okay. Awesome. So thanks, Lori Jackson. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to OnEducation. My name is Mike Washburn and my co-host is Glen Irvin. Do you want to get in touch with us? Check out our website at oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at OnEducationPod. Glen is at Irv Spanish on Twitter. I can be found on Twitter at Mr. Washburn. Our engineers are Jake and Justin at Podcast Production Team. Check out their website at podcastproductionteam.com. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/oneducationpod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we'd be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or the Google Play Store. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost, and this helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Schoology, for supporting us. Check out Schoology.com to learn how they can help you advance what's possible. Thanks as always for listening. Stay awesome. See you soon.